This attack on the Kerch Bridge today, here it is down here. Tell us about it.
Yeah, what we know at the moment, at about 3 o'clock this morning, there were 2 explosions reported, 2 people killed, 1 child is in hospital at the moment as a result of that. Ukraine has denied any knowledge of it, as they did last time the bridge was attacked. The road element is closed, the rail bridge is actually open. It's worth setting a bit of context here, though. In 2014, when Russian forces annexed Crimea, Russia was really keen to try and build some sort of bridge across to Russia itself, and a Russian commissioned a Putin-controlled company to build the longest bridge in Europe. It's a 12-mile bridge, completed in record time. This 3D imagery of it, as you'll see, there's a 4-lane road bridge, and it runs parallel to a 2-lane rail bridge. It looks likely that the attack has happened onto the road element rather than the rail element. The rail element is still open. But, of course, this bridge was built on Russian-occupied Ukrainian territory. It was built without Ukrainian permission, and therefore that's probably why Ukraine see this as a perfectly legitimate target. It was blown up in October last year, if you remember. Huge damage to both the rail and the road. It remained closed until this year, and it was only in February this year that the road element was opened again. On the May, the rail element was opened again, but just a symptom of just how important it was to Putin was that he opened the road element in May by driving himself in his Mercedes across the bridge. It's a really important link, particularly for Putin.
And it's significant because it's a supply line, isn't it? Especially the railway element.
It is, because if you look at the ground strategically, the fight in the Donbass up to the north is very close to the Russian border, but actually Russian forces fighting in southern Ukraine, it's a long way away from Russia. Therefore, for logistics and resupply, it's really important that Russia uses this bridge to supply ammunition, to food, to resupply and everything like that. So there's 3 reasons why I think it's almost certainly been attacked, one of which it is a vital resupply, and Russia will be really keen to get it sorted. Secondly, it's highly symbolic because Putin is immensely proud of that bridge. An attack on the bridge is an attack on Putin himself. He will not be happy at all. But thirdly, it's messaging. Putin controls all the messaging in Russia about what's going on in the war. But it's quite hard to hide the fact when a bridge has been damaged for people in Crimea looking to leave. They can't get away and they'll be scared because it brings the war to their doorstep. And also wealthy Muscovites that apparently go and the warm water ports of Sevastopol and the beaches in southern Crimea are very popular for Russians. If they were travelling down, they won't be able to get across, and it's all been backed up. We can have a look at a couple of pictures just briefly, one of which is a picture of the damage. It looks pretty extensive. This is one picture, but if we look at the video footage of what happened of the damage done, early reports had suggested this was done by Western-supplied Storm Shadow missiles, stuff like that. But if we freeze-frame the video here and have a look at the damage actually being caused, you can see the barricades across the bridge. They haven't been damaged at all. So it's unlikely this was damaged from above. Almost certainly this was damaged from below, and what looks likely it was seaborne drones or something like that that caused the explosion. But very much like October, we may never know.
That's really interesting. And of course, no one has admitted responsibility as yet, and may never do so, of course. Talk to me about the grain situation as well. I'm assuming the 2 things aren't linked.
As ever with Russia, it's very difficult to know. I mean, the grain deal was struck in 2022, if you recall. The Russian blockade of Odessa, and therefore it's how do you get grain out to feed the poorest in the world. Originally, the deal was done, and it was intended to be sent every 120 days. Russia insisted it was only done every 60 days, and actually that expires tonight. Now, part of the reason is Russia claims that the grain wasn't getting to the poorest in the world. But the more grain is on the global market, the cheaper the prices, the more it benefits everybody. And I think the key point, jumping forward a bit, because we are a bit short of time, is that actually part of Putin's allies are in Africa. Africa is the poorest countries in the world. They're the ones that will suffer the most as a result of this. So almost certainly this is about Putin getting some of his exports of grain and fertiliser approved without Western sanctions. He needs Africa's support. I'm not entirely sure we see the end of this, almost certainly a negotiating tactic.
Yeah, and so it goes on.